All right, so hello, fellow geography enthusiasts. Today we are going to be taking a look at Google Earth to see how this could be used as a tool both for geographical research and just for having fun studying geography. Geography is a skill that a lot of students tend to struggle with and they tend to feel like they're not good at because it's something that's not focused on very often. But with the right geographical resources, students can have a lot of fun with something like Google Earth, being able to explore that. So Google Earth has a lot of features that are both educational and fun. For instance, what I've just done is I've clicked on this ship's wheel here. This is the Voyager feature. And this is going to give any number of fun features for users to interact with. For instance, being that it's late October, we have the quiz over spooky spots. We can see different satellite imagery of Earth at night, seeing different population densities and light densities throughout the United States and other places around the world. Geographical issues related to human beings interacting with their environment. Very, very famous locations and picturesque locations around the world that people might not otherwise get the opportunity to see. 3D imagery that Google provides via satellites. Users can also cycle through different games, quizzes over different sites, quizzes about historical information, all different types of topics and cultural exploration related to the study of geography. Users also have the opportunity to toggle what layers they want to see. As far as the study of geography goes, there are many different types of maps and many different types of data that maps can show that students can toggle between as they use Google Earth. For instance, we can take a look at our global glacier coverage and see how that is affected by current climate issues. So we can toggle that on and off, and we can zoom out to see this at play at different spots in the world. So that's one really fun feature of Google Earth, is the opportunity to show users and students in particular, since this is a course and a program focused on the school library. This is a great opportunity to show students how maps can show different data at different times. That's, like I said, in the Voyager features. We can see explorations of culture, different ways that culture makes itself evident in the study of geography, whether that is through famous landmarks, through differences in language, differences in art and culture. We can see different educational topics. So for instance, if students wanted to discover important places on the Underground Railroad through Google Earth, they can begin exploring through presentations and projects created by Google Earth users. And students can see, for instance, how the crossing of the Niagara River was an important gateway for freed slaves and escaped slaves to find their way to freedom. We can explore battles that were key to the introduction of the Underground Railroad, the establishment of sanctuary areas for slaves. And each time we click to go to a new location in this presentation, you'll notice that Google Earth zooms really far out to give users the big picture. One of the difficulties of using digital resources versus print resources for geographical research is that students and users can sometimes zoom in too far on a geographical resource online and can lose sight of the big picture quite literally and lose the concept of how a place relates to the whole and relates to all the different places around it. But with Google Earth, as you move from place to place, you can see that we zoomed out to a pretty big picture view of the United States to move to Ohio to see the John Rankin House and so on and so forth. So those are some great educational features for Google Earth. Just to show you once again how this travel feature works here, I'm going to go ahead and click on I'm Feeling Lucky. Sometimes we just want to go anywhere in the world that's not here. And we're about to learn about the River Enz in Germany. Took a nice short flight there. As I am here, right now I'm in a 2D satellite image, but I can give this a 3D view because I know that, for instance, Germany's topography might be a little bit different than what I'm used to. So Google is buffering that right now. And possibly just because I am recording, it is not going to give me that full 3D view and it's going to continue buffering. Why don't we give a better example of that 3D imagery? I'm gonna go to one of my favorite places in the world. I'm gonna go to Colorado. Let's go to Mount Yale, outside of Buena Vista, Colorado, just to show you what it looks like when we transition from seeing that two-dimensional satellite imagery to now all of a sudden seeing what that looks like in a 3D format. So we were in the 2D, and we can see, and yet again we have our buffering issues, but as you saw when we first flew here, we had a much better view. How about we check out Mount Princeton, very close by. We can see that with features like mountains, we can see a much more detailed, much more interactive 3D version there. With just about any place in the world, we can drop a person and see the street view. So for instance, if you notice that as I drag the person that was down here by the globe, as I drag them onto our map, you can see these different blue dots. Those represent locations where we can actually gain a personal view of that location using user photography. So here we can see the world around Mount Princeton from the top of that mountain. This is provided by a Google user named Diego Cruz, so I can give that attribution if I were to use this in a presentation of my own. But here we can look around, we can see all of the area surrounding Mount Princeton through dropping that person. And if I want to leave and go back, here I am back to my world view. I'm on my 2D satellite view. We can see if that 3D is going to continue buffering for us. Here we go into that three-dimensional model of Mount Princeton and the surrounding area. Another great feature of Google Earth is, let's go ahead and go to another one of my favorite places on the planet. Let's go to Baltimore, where I grew up. We're going to zoom out of Colorado. We're going to fly halfway across the United States. We're going to go right here into Baltimore, Maryland. One of the really important aspects of studying geography is understanding how different maps relate to each other. What I can do is I can choose my map style. Right now I've got it set for clean. So I'm not going to have any labels, no borders, no places, nothing, no roads. I can go all the way down to an exploration mode. So we've got some important landmarks, some important highways. Or I can toggle on everything. And this is going to look a lot like when you're using the Google Maps feature on your phone and you're trying to find your way around an unfamiliar city. You can see as much or as little as you like. Just like we saw on that mountain, I can drop my person right down here, and I am now on the street outside the Perkins Homes, right there. Or I can zoom back out, and so on. I can also customize the level of interaction that I want in my map. So for instance, I can decide if I want borders, places, roads, transit, landmarks. I'm going to say I don't want to see water in my map. So I don't want my water features labeled. But if I toggle that back on, well, now I know that I've got the Patapsco River labeled. I've got my Chesapeake Bay labeled if I zoom even further out. But I can toggle that on and off if that's not my focus, and I'm not supremely worried about that in my research. I can toggle that on and off and see as much or as little in my research as I like. One more important thing that Google Earth allows users to be able to do is sometimes we want to understand distances between places. So let's say I wanted to understand the distance between Baltimore and Richmond. I can see that as the crow flies, we are at 129.5 miles. I can show that through any number of other formats, any other unit conversions. But this is just another useful feature. This is something where we might integrate this alongside a more traditional maps like Google Maps to see the actual transit distance versus the straight line distance, and use that to compare and contrast. If I zoom out even further and I want to see my cloud cover, I can toggle that on and off. And I do not believe that my computer is allowing me to see the cloud cover. So, with Google Earth, lots of different features, lots of different opportunities to explore. I can show my latitude and longitude if I want to. Depending on whether or not my students were studying that, that could be a useful tool, that could be a distracting tool. But as I explore even more, we're going to go back into the city of Baltimore. We're going to fly right back in. In theory, we're flying back into Baltimore, not taking BWI. We're going to just use Google to get there. You'll notice that as I'm exploring, I can see that the opportunity to learn more pops up. And so I can get information about the city itself. Different points of interest. Let's say I want to go to the Walters Art Museum. I can fly straight there and understand a little bit more about the history and culture of this great city. And as you saw on my menu over here, I can toggle whether I want my buildings to be three-dimensional, or if I find that distracting, I can just make all of my buildings two-dimensional. So this would be a great tool to use to help students explore and understand unfamiliar cities, and as they're understanding and exploring those unfamiliar cities or unfamiliar locations, they can click on different locations or tap if they're using mobile devices. And so I want to learn more about this UB Blake National Jazz and Culture Center. And here I can learn more about what this place is. I can see its location. I can get opportunities to learn more. And if I want, as we saw, I can put my little person down here on the street and get the opportunity to see it in its location, in its neighborhood, and I can explore even more about that city as if I were a person there. There's a lot of really great educational applications for Google Earth. There's a lot of really fun applications for Google Earth. The more you explore, the more you're able to find, and the more you're able to play around and understand how different geographical concepts can be shown and understood through the context of the same maps. Depending on what you layer, depending on what you focus on, this is a great jumping off point for kids to see and explore different spots around the world. Thank you.